Welcome back, everybody. As you probably guessed by the intro and the title of the video, this is the gun that we are going over today. This is the Smith Wesson 340PD. Now, it comes in a couple different variants. The one I have here has that orange or red front sight post. It also comes with fiber optic sights or night sights. So the reason we went with this one, though, is this particular model here with this red sight does not have an internal lock on there. And I know a lot of you out there don't like the internal locks for whatever reason. The Hillary hole, as it is colloquially known. So if that's the case and you're looking for this particular gun, that's the SKU to go with, just for what it's worth. But what makes the 340 interesting, special, unique, etc. Number one is going to be weight. So this thing here unloaded weighs 11.2 ounces. And again, it is a 357 Magnum chambering. You can shoot both 357 Magnum, of course, and 38 Special, but it's actually lighter than their traditional J-frames that are chambered in 38 Special. And how they do that and have the ability to not have the gun blow up on you is twofold. Number one is the frame itself is not made out of aluminum. It is made out of a alloy which contains scandium. Now, scandium is freakishly expensive. The frame itself isn't all scandium, but again, it's a scandium alloy, and that gives it a lot of strength, and it also makes it really lightweight. Additionally, our cylinder here is titanium. Again, saving a lot of weight and giving us freakish strength. They also have a couple different details on the gun itself that we'll go into when we get up close on it. But why would you want a 357 revolver that's this small and this lightweight? I guess for carry, right? A lot of guys want this to just throw it in their pocket or inside the waistband, have something super lightweight that they don't really have to think about, and then if they need it, have that 357 Magnum capability on hand. Now, speaking of that capability, the barrel on this is only 1.875 inches long, and I did a full video on 357 versus 38 Special coming out of a snub nose revolver. You guys can check it out. I geek out on the ballistics on that. But one thing to know is despite what people say in gun shops around America, you do actually gain some power and velocity with that 357 Magnum. And it moves that velocity similar to what you see in a lot of 9mm loads. Whereas if you're shooting the 38 Special out of something like this, it's closer to 380 ACP. Again, there's a lot of variables in there. Check the video out if you guys want to see all the details. But does that power matter to you versus the perceived and very real recoil difference on it? Ultimately, that's up to you to kind of figure out, right? The J-frame guns, and just in general, or any kind of really small revolver, a lot of folks will say are experts' guns. I tend to agree with that, at least an experienced shooter's gun. And they're not super easy to shoot intuitively just by themselves. And if you add in that recoil factor, if you're somebody who's a little bit skittish about the recoil impulse, just you have to take that into account with what you're going to choose to defend yourself with. I'm going to try to roll in a split screen here of me firing both 357 Magnum, and these are full house loads versus some 38 Special. So you can see the recoil difference in terms of what it actually looks like in my hand. I will tell you, if you fired probably 10 rounds of 357 Magnum through this in rapid succession, you would have a sore palm for sure. You definitely feel it. There's no getting around it. Is it doable? Yes, it is. So there is that. For comparison sakes here, we're going to use the 442. This is a performance setter gun that I have a full review on already. And then, of course, our 340, just to kind of show you a couple differences on it. First off, up here where we have our ejector rod here, it's housed in this area here, which is just beefed up. It's got a little bit more strength to it, that steel reinforcement there up front, versus here on the 442 where it's exposed and it just doesn't need to be quite as beefy, of course, because it just doesn't have the kind of pressures coming out of it that the 357 Magnum can. Additionally, you'll see our forcing cone here is very large. The barrel itself is steel, if I didn't mention that already. And then we have this reinforced metal here built in right above it, and it's got that extra ramp built in there as well. That's to handle just the extra, again, pressure coming out of the 357 Magnum that you can see that is not here on the 38 Special gun. Now, additionally, one thing I should point out here on the airlight is that it says right in there, no less than 120 grain bullet. Reason for that is that it does have, those bullets rather, will have excess gas coming out, typically speaking, not always, depends on the loading. So you don't want to run anything really lightweight through there for it, and that's just for safety reasons for all of the pressure that would be right up there on the forcing cone. One thing to mention as well for folks who are new with any kind of 357 Magnum, you don't want your thumbs in front of there because it will get you, it'll hurt, and you might lose a little bit of blood if you do so. So just check your grip on that. Another thing to point out here It's just the reinforcements. Again, I believe these are titanium reinforcements all the way around, just to handle that extra pressure that we're going to get from the 357 Magnum going through there. Now, just some details on the actual revolver itself. It does come with these J-frame square butt style grips. They're all rubber. I have zero issues with them, but one thing to point out is that they're very small, and this piece back here is what's going to go into the web of your hand, so you really don't have any dampening force, if you will, from the recoil. That thing's going straight back into you. Now, again, they're very slim, very concealable, all those sorts of things. Pros and cons, I suppose. And to release the cylinder, if you didn't already pick up on it, you push forward on the Smith & Wessons. 5 shots in there. The cylinder doesn't come too far out. So if you wanted to reload in a hurry, definitely recommend speed strips or, something along those lines, because putting them in individually will be a little bit cumbersome, especially if it's under stress. And the trigger on this is pretty typical J-frame stuff. It's not bad. Now, again, this is a performance center trigger. Just kind of compare it to, and you'll see it's smooth. And that one breaks a little bit lighter than this one. This one on my scale is breaking right at 11.5 pounds. It's not worked over, but it's not terrible. That's me pulling super slow. You can see there's a little bit of a last stage there before it actually breaks right there. But again, normal firing, you're just gonna pull straight through on it and kind of roll through the brake. That's what I like to say. Another gun I wanted to roll in for comparison's sake is this gun here. This is my 640. This is an old one. I've had this one for a long, long time. It is essentially a J-frame. It's the same size. These grips are just larger, but you could put these grips on there. The frames are the same. 357 Magnum, of course. However, this gun is all steel and weighs double what this weighs. That said, when you actually are firing it, it's a very different firing experience from a recoil standpoint. Honestly, the recoil impulse is almost, I would say, half with the heavier gun than it is here with 340PD. Just know that. But Smith & Wesson does make options if you want something smaller with 357 Magnum, but just know it's going to weigh a lot more. It is what it is. Everything's a pro and a con and a trade-off, I suppose, at the end of the day. I'm sure someone's already typed up in the comments, why would I carry that versus, say, like a Glock 43 or a Shield or something like that? Well, a few reasons. A lot of people do believe that revolvers are more reliable. I mean, that debate can go on all day long. One thing I'll tell you is they're simpler. I think a lot of people who are looking at guns this size, unfortunately, are inexperienced shooters. I say unfortunately because I wish all shooters were experienced, but that's not always the case, and you have to live in reality land. Revolvers are very, very simple. Obviously, load it, pull the trigger. That's basically all there is to it. You don't have to worry about manipulating a slide or anything like that. In terms of weight, this Glock 43 unloaded is coming in right around 19 ounces, and it definitely weighs more, obviously, right? So if you're concerned with weight, that is something to consider. However, Glock 43 is going to get you 2 extra rounds and has a trigger that's probably a little bit easier to use for most folks out there. I would say there's less likely that you're going to have a bad draw if you're drawing from a pocket with a revolver. That said, you can draw the 43 just fine from a pocket, but in terms of consistency, the revolver is probably going to give you a little bit of an edge there. With the comparisons out of the way, there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on here before we close the video out. Number one is going to be sights. So the rear sight, of course, is built into the top of the frame, has that square notch on it, and we already talked about the front sight there with that red polymer piece in there. I am going to be switching it out with an XS big dot front sight. May do a video on that going forward. Just stay tuned, either here or on the B channel, one of the two. But you can change your sight out because these are pinned in. Some of the other J-frame options don't give you that, so there is that advantage there. In terms of reliability, I've had zero issues, exactly as you would expect from this gun. It works just fine. No issues at all hitting what you're aiming at. In terms of accuracy, if you do your part, the gun will do its part without question. I noticed no difference rather between 357 Magnum and 38 Special in terms of accuracy. Some folks ask me that. It all groups pretty darn well. I shot it basically out to 25 yards at most, and that was on like a 10-inch steel plate. And again, you can hit it for sure with either cartridge, again, provided that the shooter does their job. One thing that comes along with the fancy scandium frame and some of the other features that we talked about here, unfortunately, is going to be price point. These are not cheap. So compared to, again, like a 442 or 638 or something like that, it's definitely going to be more than that without question. So I think the MSRP on these is just over $1,000. I was looking around just now, right before I came out to do the video, to see what the street price was. Street price right now, again, 2021 is a little bit crazy. It's coming in right around $900 to $950. So not cheap at all, but it is a super high quality gun. If you guys haven't seen my factory tour of the Smith Wesson plant, I would check it out. It's pretty cool. They do all their own forgings in-house. Everything's built here in America, and Smith Wesson's been making revolvers for well over 100 years. They know what they're doing. They work, they run. You can absolutely trust your life to them. I do. I carry a J-frame all the time. I've talked about that before. And this one is going to be going in the carry rotation as well. Again, like I said, we're going to throw the excess big dot on there, but other than that, it's going to stay as it is, and probably go in my pocket when I'm venturing around town a lot. And that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about the gun, anything we didn't cover, I think we pretty much covered all of it. You can ask those down below in the comment section. I know one thing to address, because somebody asked me about it earlier over on my Instagram page, which, side note, I have a new Instagram page because they deleted my original one. All my social media is up here for you guys to follow me. Somebody asked me, is it worse than shooting the 500 Magnum? It depends, right? It depends on the load, but it's close, depending on the load, right? There's some 500 Magnum loads that are worse than this, for sure. But some of the lighter 500 Magnum, I'd put it pretty close in terms of the recoil impulse you feel. You don't get thrown off target as much as you would sometimes with that 500 Magnum, but just that very small area going right into the love of your hand, it gets your attention. Now, again, if you're using this in a self-defense role, would you notice it? Highly unlikely you would ever notice that difference. So anyway, that's enough of me ranting. Like I said, questions down below in the comment section. The best place to reach me with questions is over at Facebook. Lately, they have not been letting me respond to messages. I don't know why. Hopefully that'll go away, because I do see all the messages over there, and I do my best to get back to everybody over there, provided I can do so. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do so. Additionally, you can sign up for our email. We have 2 emails. One of them is basically just me sending out all of the videos since the previous email, which is maybe like once a month, twice a month, something like that. It's not very often. But that way there's no social media giant between my content and your eyes, and regardless of where I post, you know, YouTube could take us down any day. My videos are still going to go up somewhere, and they will be in that email for you guys to find. And the other email is just for deals, stuff like that we find that you guys may be interested in. Say this thing goes on sale, or the excess big dot slate, whatever the case maybe rather goes on sale. We'll send that out to you guys so you guys can take advantage of that. So that's it. Again, I'm finally done this time for real. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video.